Welcome to the Beauty Equation podcast, where beauty meets biology, psychology, and art history. This podcast is hosted by myself, Dr. Christelle Oliver-Dussault, Dr. Harpreet Lotay, and a beauty industry expert, Amanda Manholt. This is your space to reclaim agency over aging and beauty on your terms. We're cutting through the noise with evidence-based insights and real talk about aging, self-perception, and modern treatments. No quick fixes, no fluff. Just honest conversations to empower you to define beauty for yourself. Welcome back to the Beauty Equation. I'm Christelle.
I'm Harpreet.
And I'm Amanda.
And last time we spoke about the reason why we all came together to talk about the beauty industry and this famous beauty equation. Today we're going to dig a little bit deeper and talk about our backgrounds and how we all came to know each other. So Amanda, I might start with you today.
Okay, I guess we were going to talk about sort of how we got to this point, right?
Mhm.
I started my journey in aesthetics very, very young. Basically, right out of high school, I went and did aesthetics training. And from there, I moved into more of a retail space and retail management. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, made the switch into medical aesthetics. So it's been a very long time and very many hats, but I'm pretty excited to be where I'm at now. And how, of course, I met both of you as I came and worked for Dr. Lotay. And then, of course, you joined us as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. I'm going to
yeah.
tell on you a little bit, Amanda. I remember you telling me a story that when you were, I don't know, I'm going to say 7 or 8, you used to take cosmetic products and shampoo and stand in your bathroom and tell everybody the
Extol the
love of
virtues of
extol the
any,
virtues of any
stand there
product.
like this.
Yes,
I know, it's hilarious. The writing was on the wall.
the writing was on the wall.
I have a dear friend, and we've literally been friends since we were 7, and she just thinks it's absolutely hysterical that, this is where I ended up because, yeah, we'd stand on the side of the bathtub and sell whatever products. This was before we had our phones in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Different time.
Yeah,
What?
you aren't making TikToks. Yeah.
No,
Thank God that wasn't around when we were younger.
right?
It's a much harder space to be in now.
Yeah.
What was it about just beauty and aesthetics in general, do you think that attracted you to the field?
I think there's just something about how it impacts the way you feel and the way you show up in the world. And, I would love to say that appearance and it didn't matter, but it does.
Yeah.
When we look better, we feel better. And, it does really. And I think that's just always fascinated me. Plus, I was born with white eyebrows. So I needed to know how to fix that.
And then you mentioned that, obviously you worked in cosmetics for a long time, but eventually you made the switch into more the medical aesthetics realm.
Mhm.
What spawned that switch?
I think I just needed more. I always loved the training and the learning aspect, but I just felt like it was just more surface level information. And I loved the idea that I could go deeper, learn more to help more people.
Yeah. And for those who haven't been to the clinic and don't know you, what do you tend to do on a day-to-day basis? I know you wear lots of hats
Yeah.
in the clinic, but if someone was to come in, what would they expect?
Often I'm the sort of first point of contact after you, of course, speak with our lovely reception. But I'm there to help people understand what it is they're seeing and give them some perspective as to what options that they have available to them and really help to educate them in terms of treatments and products and so that they can make an informed decision. You sort of see me first, I get to know you, get to listen, understand, and then of course I can pass them on to providers like yourselves.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Harpreet, you have quite an impressive resume. I'm not going to go into the details, but you did open the fantastic clinic where we all met. And I'm so glad we connected when I first met to Kamloops because I have grown so much thanks to the two of you, actually, from both a medical and a business point of view. Tell us a little bit about your journey, maybe a bit before the aesthetics and how, I suppose, beauty and art intertwined itself into your life.
Yeah, it quite serendipitously. I have lived in various places. So I was born in Africa. I moved to the UK and then Canada, and I've lived in the US. And, it's interesting how beauty standards do differ and how they sort of diverse sort of beauty standards shape identity. And I was also always a visual person. I love the visual arts. I was fascinated by Leonardo da Vinci when I was a child, like, this everyman that knew science and art and had, sort of experienced the world very holistically. And I really admired that. And, his focus on science and anatomy sort of drew me towards medicine. And I did family practice and practice a full spectrum of family practice and have really enjoyed my ability to connect with people at various stages in their life. I've delivered babies, I've flown up north and done some rural clinics, and I've practiced sports medicine down in the States. I've always had a love for visual arts, and aesthetic medicine really found me. I didn't go looking for it. I liked to paint, and my husband was in an internship with an oculoplastic surgeon who had an interest in the fine arts as well, and he liked to sketch. And one day they were chatting, and my husband shared one of my paintings with this gentleman, and he said, I really, really like that painting. I know your wife's a family physician, but if she gives me that painting, I will let her do a fellowship with me for 6 months in this new thing coming up called aesthetic medicine. And that's where it all started. And it's been an amazing journey. I've loved it. And it really does combine and marry my love of art along with the technical aspects, because when I was in medical school, I was awarded the gold medal in surgery. So for those technical things, the culture of surgery didn't really fit me, but aesthetic medicine is perfect. So I've been very, very lucky, and I love empowering people like you both do. And to Amanda's points about, how you look impacting how you might succeed in the world, that really, I did see that. And one of the things that really motivates me is to help even the playing field. So people might not have the genetics, they may not have the looks, but they're extremely valuable to society and they have a lot to offer. They might be very intelligent, very witty. And if they find that their appearance is holding them back, we're here to even that playing field for them. And I love that aspect of aesthetic medicine.
I always think about that. What was that book? 40, 50 Shades or whatever. What was that book
50
that was
Shades
out?
of Grey?
50 Shades of Grey.
Are we talking 50 Shades of Grey now?
Totally we are. And, but think about it. Okay, so the guy in the book is like this handsome, gorgeous, powerful millionaire. If he was unattractive and lived in a rundown shack, it would have been a horror story. Just saying.
True, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like it or not, that's just kind of the reality that we live in our culture.
Yeah, appearances matter, and they change perspective and how we approach and are seen in the world.
Yeah.
What about you, Christelle?
Yeah, I think I've had an interesting path into medicine. To me, aesthetics is where medicine and art meet. And I've had this creative side that's always been there, but was repressed for a long time as I focused on more the science side of things. I grew up, dancing in my living room, and I was involved in gymnastics. I went to circus camp when I was 12 and decided I was going to join the circus at that point. My parents steered me in the right direction and were like, you should probably keep studying. Then I knew I wanted to do medicine, but it's postgraduate in North America. So there's other parts of the world like Australia, Ireland, UK, or Europe where you can go straight out of high school. So when I was looking to decide what will I study before I do medicine, physiology kind of came naturally just because I was fascinated by how does the body work. And my roommates at the time were all doing arts degrees, and one of them was doing anthropology, and I had a few spare classes to take, and I fell into the field of anthropology and loved it. And I never really realized how useful it would be down the line, where now that ability to understand different cultures and different mindsets comes into play. And believe it or not, like Kamloops is quite multicultural, and we get people from all over the world, and it's very helpful to be able to understand different perspectives. And so, yeah. Then in med school, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I remember when I started medicine, I was like, well, I really like dermatology and I really like women's health and I like a bit of emergency medicine, but medicine tries to box you in, and I think a lot of careers do that to make you go down one route. And because I liked so many different fields and really the draw to medicine was connecting with humans and speaking to them, understanding them and helping them. That's why I ended up doing family medicine and loved it and still practice it. I still have some roles in that field and teach residents in the field of family medicine. But I wanted something else, something more. I happened to have an opportunity, kind of like you, Dr. Lotay, to spend some time with someone who did a bit more, who was a GP by training, but did medical dermatology and aesthetics. And I really loved the artistry of it and how playful it can be as well, too. You have the ability to create something with someone and guide them in the process. And it's a really rapidly evolving field. We're really in its infancy. I mean, Dr. Lotay, you were there as it was emerging. And it's a really exciting space to be in. And it's funny how things come full circle and all these different interests that I had in my 20s that I didn't really understand why I was doing them or why it mattered. And now they have all had their place in getting to me to where I am today.
Life is interesting that way.
It is. It really.
Yeah. It's a journey, right? I think the other aspect, Harpreet, we had talked about this, the way I envision sort of the ideal aesthetic provider, I think of like a triangle. And, in one aspect, they have to have the knowledge of anatomy and physiology. And in the other corner, equally as important, they have to have that artistic ability to really assess a face and understand what would make it more attractive,
Mhm.
right? And the other corner is really the psychology piece, which it just fascinates me to no end. And it isn't just about giving people giant lips or freezing their foreheads so that they aren't moving. It's a shame that it gets such a bum rap because, that every one person that you see walking around that looks odd because their anatomy isn't, you know, anymore, there could be 100 behind her where you don't know that they've done anything.
Yeah. I initially felt guilt when I was interested in this field because
Right?
of the mentality around it and how it's seen, and felt the need to justify why I enjoyed this aspect of medicine. I don't feel like I
Yeah,
have to do
that's
myself
that
anymore.
that's interesting, and I don't think I ever felt that need because the thing that motivated me so much was the psychology and the aspect of improving people's quality of life. And then it is a very technical field if you really want to do it well. So I never felt that, but I certainly got attitude from other providers, which is or very interesting. So other family practice physicians or other academics, and I've practiced in an academic setting too because I taught family practice at the University of Texas in San Antonio. And so it's interesting to see people's reaction to you when you decide to use your resources in this field. They almost feel like it's a waste, or you're made to feel that way, or they often make comments that suggest that this is not a worthwhile endeavor. Let's
Or a
just put it
worthy
that
cause.
way.
Yeah, and I think that's where the
Yes.
came in for me. It wasn't the general public. It was more, you're often
Yes.
surrounded by your professional social circles.
Yes.
And because the
Yes.
drive is always, I find my happy safe spaces in that consult room, whether it's general practice or medical aesthetics, as having it's such a privilege to be in that space and be trusted with
Absolutely.
the person in front of you. Uh,
And I think that's what
to me,
drives
it's no
all of
different
us.
whether it is family medicine or medical aesthetics. I approach it with the same mindset, the same openness, and the same kind of mind-body social context approach.
And I think to your point around all of our skills coming together, culminating in this, I feel if you're a very, very good family physician and you can use your hands well, you can be a very, very good aesthetic physician, because the starting point of every patient's journey is being able to express and be understood, right? And in family practice, the communication aspect is stressed in our training as far as it was in mine, in terms of how do you connect with a patient well enough for them to be able to divulge their closest fears and their closest aspirations. And that's really what we do in aesthetics. And then the technical part is also important, but I feel that family practice docs they can certainly do this and do this very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important. Listening is so critical when you're in the consult with a patient. And
Mhm.
oftentimes I find they don't actually have the words to try. And so, you're kind of reading between those lines and kind of, there's a lot of investigating in that first initial meeting, which I love because I just really like to sort of try and understand people and, what's going to make them feel confident again and feel like they belong in their own skin once again. And yeah, often they can't put it into words. I mean, we've had cases where, we had a lovely patient come in, and it was back when we were all wearing masks and, those times. And she came in and was having a consult time where she was booked in for a lip touch up, but we've never seen her before. So I got to chat with her at first. And when she took her mask off, I remember thinking, uh-oh, yeah, where are we going to put it? Like, it turned out that she had been getting filler in her lips again and again and again and again. No one had ever really sort of sat down with her, and we did photos, we looked at them together. And when she looked at her photos, I remember breathing a sigh of relief because she said, "I look weird." And I was like, "Oh, thank God I don't have to tell her." But where I was going with all this, and, we ended up dissolving and it was great. In the end, helping her out. But I think that what got her into that trouble was that she wasn't able to clearly express what she wanted. And unfortunately, whoever she was seeing didn't really pick up on her cues, and it was easier just to keep treating her. So I don't know where I'm going with this story, but really, I think
you're touching on the responsibility that we hold, not only in understanding them, but also it's very easy to develop a dysmorphia because you get used to how you look every day. And if you're changing that gradually over time, you may not realize that your appearance and your anatomy has become distorted.
Mhm.
And we will often try to show patients that in a very delicate way.
Mhm.
And sometimes, yeah, we will refuse treatments.
I think it just
Absolutely.
goes to show, again, that vulnerability piece, right? And how important it is with what both of you do, and that you can really be that guide um, for those patients, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Not lead them down the wrong path.
Exactly. So now that you have all heard a little bit about us, what is one thing that you would say you love the most about aesthetics before we finish up today?
I have to pick one thing.
Yeah.
Well, if I had to pick one thing, it's really when I hand the patient a mirror and they say, "There I am." That's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Especially,
cool.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I think for me, it's similar, but it's giving people agency.
Yeah.
Giving them some tools and a little bit of power back. And
Mhm.
I really despise the word anti-aging. I really do, because as you've mentioned before, it's not something all of us unfortunately get to experience. But yeah, I just like people to have a little control and a little agency over this whole process. How about you, Christelle?
Mhm.
Uh, it's usually at the follow-up when I see them walking with more confidence.
Yeah.
that is just, yeah, that's priceless to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah.
Anytime we can help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next episode, I'm excited to film that one.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start digging around into aging and beauty and, what actually matters, what's worth doing and what's just noise. Like I said, there's so much out there. We're drowning in information. We really are. So if you liked this episode, please like and subscribe and, share it with a friend who you think might vibe with our vibe. You can follow us on Instagram. Maybe I'll get Christelle to give us all the information on that. I think you had.
Yeah,
I'm going to forget all the details.
down below at the end, including our email to contact us.
Yeah. If there's any questions that people have, we have numerous topics. Trust us. We've already got a list of things that we want to talk about, but really, I think what's important is what people that listen to us want to know.
Yeah, so if there's ever a question that you've had that you're almost too scared to ask in person, this is the space to do it. We will make them anonymous and go through them. And yeah, look forward to getting those in the inbox.
See you in the next episode.
Okay. Take care,
Bye
everyone.
for now.
Bye.
Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. While we're medical professionals, everything shared on the Beauty Equation is for informational purposes only and isn't intended as medical advice. This podcast doesn't establish a doctor-patient relationship, and any medical or aesthetic decision should always be made with a qualified healthcare provider. Our views are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or affiliated organizations. And remember, the field of aesthetics is always evolving, so information may change over time. See you next time on the Beauty Equation.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. You can send us an email at info@thebeautyequation.com, and you might hear your question answered in future episodes. You can also find us on Instagram at Dr. Christelle MD, at H. Lotay MD, and at Crow's Feet and Confidence. Until next time, keep questioning the equation.